Hello and welcome to today's project. Today we're going to be looking at using the Bernina rulers and the Bernina Ruler Foot 72. And I'm going to be quilting this summer beach panel which I've put together. I think it's got a really nice bright summery feel, and I want to use the rulers to add some quilting to it. Alongside the rulers, we're going to also be using some of the great accessories that you get with the ruler. You can add to the rulers. So we've got the couching inserts here. We've got 3 different sizes, and we're also going to be using the Echo quilting clips here. So first of all, I've put my panel together. I've pieced it together using my lovely Benina B size 570. And I've used my foot 97, my 1/4 inch foot, so I get nice even 1/4 inch seams. And as I say, I'm going to use the rulers to quilt it. I just spray basted it together, so I just used a 505 spray to stick my layers together. And I've done a little plan and worked out where I'm going to put all the different types of quilting, and I'm going to try and use all the different rulers so you can have a look at how they all work on some of the shapes you can get with them. So what is ruler work? Well, ruler work allows you to create geometric designs using the 1/4 inch acrylic rulers and your ruler foot. And what you do is you butt your rulers up against the foot, and then you move your fabric and your ruler along, and it gives you a nice, even, consistent shape. Now, ruler work's become really popular over the last few years, and I think one of the reasons is it's really nice and simple, it's nice and easy and consistent, and if you've created your lovely quilt and you want to quilt it, sometimes the thought of free motion embroidery is a bit daunting because you need to be quite artistic, and you know, it can be a bit of a challenge, but using the rulers just makes it really easy and simple, and you can plan it all out before, and away you go, and you get really, really great results. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to quilt this panel using my rulers. So let's take a closer look at the foot. So this is foot 72. It has this nice raised area here. Now this is a 1/4 inch because you are going to be butting that up against your 1/4 inch rulers, and you want to have nice firm contact there. The foot also has markings going round the side, so this is really good when you want to line things up, and you can line it up with the markings on the rulers. The rulers also have markings on them, so that really helps. The foot has this cutaway at the front, so that helps you view your needle, and you can see exactly where your needle's going if you want it to be, you know, an exact point if you're doing stitching along the ditch, for example. And it's also adjustable, so you can adjust the height of the foot because you want the foot to just hover above the top of your quilt, so you've got room to move your quilt sandwich. You know, you don't want to get it stuck, but then you don't want any flagging, and that's where the fabric travels up the needle, and if that happens you can get skip stitches and things like that. So this dial here allows you to adjust the height so you get it just where you want it for the thickness of your fabric and your wadding. So it's a really nicely designed foot. You can also use this foot just for normal free motion if you wanted to, and in conjunction with the 2 accessories that we're going to look at later. So that's just some of the nice features of foot 72. So Bernina produce a great ruler set, and it has lots of different rulers that you can create loads of different shapes with. So we'll just have a look at that. So we have the straight line tool, so this is really good for straight lines, or you've got a 45-degree angle here. That's a really useful one. Then we have you have nested circles here, and with the nested circles you can either do concentric circles, or you can do something like this, like a spirographic design. So they're really fun to do with the circles. We also have, I think this is a bit of an apple core type shape, so this is a variety of curves. I think this is called the 4-in-1 tool. And then we have my favourite, which is the squiggle template. So this, you can do squiggly shapes or ribbon effects, and we're going to use that later. So with that one, you can produce something like sort of wave effects and ribbon effects with that one. There is also a set of oval shapes, similar to the circles, nested ovals, and as you can see here, you can do the similar thing with those. You can do like a spirographical shape with those. So there really is a nice range, and it pretty much covers all the things you would want to do. So all the rulers are have the Bernina logo on one side, and then they have various markings etched into the back, which are really useful for lining up. And it's really good to add tape. This is grip tape, so that just helps when you're gripping and pushing down to stop your rulers from moving. So that's the Bernina Ruler Set. Okay, so we're going to get ready to start doing some ruler work. And so the first thing I've done is I have put my straight stitch plate on, because we're going to be using a straight stitch, and that just prevents any flagging, as I mentioned before, so it keeps everything nice and firm. I need to drop my feed dogs, so I'm going to just reach round and drop my feed dogs. I'm going to be using just a standard straight stitch on its normal setting. I've done some tests and I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to be using my Ruler Foot 72, so I'm just going to go into press foot recognition here, and instead of scrolling through, I can just go !72, and there it is there, so I can select that and it's displayed there, so I can come out of that so it knows I'm using foot 72. Foot pressure, I'm just going to take my foot pressure off because it's going to be free motion, but also I can also adjust the height of the foot, and I will do that in a minute. And yeah, I think we're almost ready to go. So I'm using a Metler thread on top and bottom. I'm just using blue and top and bottom because I've got lots of different colours going on, but I'm going to do all the quilting in blue. And I just also wanted to say something about this really gorgeous table I've got here. So this is an optional extra for the new 5 series machines. It's really lovely and smooth. It's got these lovely beveled edges, and it just gives you a much larger area to work on to support your fabric while you're sewing. So if you haven't got it sunk into a table or a cabinet, it gives you a lot more space and just really holds everything up so you can move around nice and easily and stops the weight of the quilt dragging it down. Also, I'm going to set, well, I have set needle down, so this would be needle up, but we're going to have needle down set, so when I stop sewing, the needle will stop in the work, and that just allows me to pivot, move my rulers and get all set up for the next line of stitching that I'm going to do. Okay, so the section we're going to do first is I'm going to do the door of my cute little beach hut, my little red door. So I want to have a kind of a wood effect on my door, so I'm going to do lines going across, and I've just you might not be able to see, but I've just done some little markers just so I know where to line my ruler up to. And I'm going to be using this straight line tool here. Now this is for short stretches of straight lines, and it's a really good one to start off with because it's straight, it's nice and easy to use, and it's a good one to practice with. It just means that you get used to how much pressure you need to put on your hands pressing down the ruler, and also how much pressure you need to put pressing up against the ruler, because they're both important. So you get a nice smooth line, and you also get used to how you're going to position your ruler, because your needle is 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the foot and the ruler, so you need to have your ruler 1/4 of an inch from where you want to stitch. And I found these little notches really useful as well to help you line up, so you can just line those up against a seam or a marking if you've got one, and you're going to be bang on 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Another important thing when you're using the rulers is to plan your route, to have a little think about where you're going on your quilt. So for instance, with this door I want stripes all the way up it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the top left corner, and I'm going to go down along in the ditch and up, and then I'm just going to work my way around until I get up to the top, and then I can come back down again. And that means that whole area is going to be quilted. So I'm just going to get set up and we will start. Okay, so what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm going to bring my threads to the top of my quilt sandwich. I'm just going to get my needle in just the right position, and then I can go, holding my thread, I can go needle down, needle up, bring my foot up, and I'm just going to bring, so I've brought my bottom thread up, and I also want my top thread to be underneath, so I'm just going to pop that through there. So I've got both my threads on the top, and I need to position my ruler. So I'm going to stitch down this seam, so I'm just going to lower my foot using my knee lift, and I'm just going to pop my needle into where I'm working, and so I'm pressing the needle up against the base, so not the needle, the ruler up against the base of the foot. Now I just want to make sure that's the correct height. This is fairly thick, so I can adjust it. So I'm just going to take it up a tiny bit, and that's now nice and level with my ruler. And I'm just going to use this little notch here to line that up with that corner, so I know I'm nice and straight. Then it's a case of just not free motioning, but stitching down this edge. And really it's just a case of practice in terms of getting your stitches the correct length as you go down. I've found in terms of where you put your hand, it's good to have your hands fairly near the needle, not too near, fairly near the needle, and also have them quite spread out so you've got some fingers on the quilt, because you are moving the actual quilt and the ruler at the same time. And then I'm just going to pinch a little section here to help me. And if you can see that, pinch a little section here, I might go a bit nearer the needle to help me as I sew down. Now when I start, I'm going to do a few stitches just to secure at the beginning, and then I'm going to work my way down to this corner, and then I'll move my ruler. So here we go. Having a little reposition. Okay, so we've reached the corner, and now I'm going to just twist my ruler around, and I'm going to again line up the notches so I know I'm 1/4 inch away from the seam, and I'm going to stitch along the bottom of my door. Trying to keep it nice and even. Stop there. And then I'm going to sew up to 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to go across. So again, I'm just going to place my ruler. I just want to move over a tiny bit, which I'm just going to do manually. Put them right in the corner. And I'm going to use the little notches again to make sure I'm all lined up, and I'm just going to go up to my next marker. And then again, I'm going to go across. Now this ruler's got these really nice etched lines in it, so I can line up that etched line with the bottom of my door, and I know that will keep it nice and straight when I'm going across to my next marker. So I'm just going to line those two up and sew across. So just keeping my hands so I've got the right amount of pressure as I stitch along. Round, it's all lined up, and I'm going to repeat this process all the way up the door. Okay, so that's the end of the door done, and now I'm going to move on to do my stripes of my lovely beach hut. When you're using the rulers, you need as much grip as you can get. So I've put grip tape on the back of them, or you can just use rolled up loops of masking tape. Another thing that really helps is gloves. So I've got my fetching spotty gloves on, and that just helps me grip to the fabric, so I've got the right amount of pressure to move my fabric along. Now for this section, I'm going to do the stripes on my beach hut, and I've planned my route out, so I'm going to start in this corner, work my way around, do my top section, and then finish doing this little section here. So, and all using my straight line ruler again. Now these, the stripes are, well, they're approximately 1/2 inch, so that's quite good in terms of lining up using the markings on my ruler. So yeah, we're just going to work our way across the beach hut and finish at the top corner. So just bring my threads to the top, put my needle back down where I want it to go. I'm going to lower my foot, I'm going to get my ruler in the right place, make sure it's straight, and away we go. Okay, so I finished doing my stripes, and now I'm just going to go around the edge of my beach hut. So I'm going to go up to the top and round this section here. Yeah, using my little notches here just to line up, so I make sure everything is straight. Just going to try and get my hands in the right place, and away we go. So it's really important to stop every few inches just so you can reposition and line up and make sure you've got your hands in a good place. So that's the end of that section. Okay, now I'm going to move on to these large blue sections, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this diamond pattern in those sections, still using my ruler tool. Now, I think as I mentioned before, it's always good to plan your route so you know where you're going. You don't go over any section, you know, too many times if you don't need to. So I've drawn myself a little diagram of where I'm going to go and how I'm going to do it. And I must try and stick to it. So here's my little diagram. I'm just going to put it to one side, and then I'm going to move over to this section and start. And I have done some little markings just so I know, you know, where's halfway up the block and where to go to, so I can use my ruler to line up with those markings. Okay, so for this section, I'm going to do my diamonds, and I've put my needle in where I've marked my first point, and I'm going to line up the edge of the notch with my second point, so I know I'm going to do a nice straight line straight across my my block. And I've twisted things around just to make it easier to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to stitch across. Stop there. Right, now having a look at my diagram, so I've gone 1, 2, now I need to come up to point 3, which is here, and I've got a nice line to stitch down, so that's nice and easy. Stop in the corner now. According to my diagram, 3 are going back up to this corner here, which is 4. So I'm just going to make sure I'm lined up. So we've got to point 5, and now I'm going to go across the corner to point 6. So you've just got to maintain that contact, so you're pushing against the ruler, but everything is coming with you at the same time. Up into this corner and stop. So we're on point 6. And now we go diagonally to point 7. Line that up. And away we go. So that's my diamond pattern, and then I'm just going to do the same thing up here. Now we're going to move on to create some bumps, which are going to be in the yellow area, which is the sand. So I'm going to use the 4-in-1 tool, this tool here, and I'm going to use this curve here, so the larger inner curve. So that will create a smaller curve when I stitch it out, because it'll be 1/4 of an inch away from this inside edge. What I've done is I've just stitched it on some paper to create a template, and then that's helped me position where my sand dunes are going to go. So I've just drawn some little markers so I know where they're going to go. Because of the rulers, you can sew it in any direction you want to. I'm just going to pivot my quilt round just to make things a bit easier, and I'm going to start at the top and work my way down to create my little sandy bumps. So I can take my template off, and again I'm just going to lower my needle down like we've started off on all our areas, just make sure it's in the right spot. Needle down, needle up, raise my foot, bring my threads to the top. So I've lined up my ruler, and we've got markings on the inside of the foot, which is really great, so I can see exactly where I'm positioning my ruler. I want the tip of the ruler to be on this blue line, because this is what I'm quilting up against too. And I found with hand positioning, it's good if I go halfway, stop, and then reposition my hands. I get better grip. So I'm just going to check I'm in the right spot. So that's good. I'm going to do a few stitches on the spot, and then I'm going to move down. Here we go. So I found if I just move my hands round a little bit when I get to that point, I get better grip. Fantastic. And then I'm just going to move along and finish off this row of sand dunes. Great, so now I've done one row. I'm just going to go and use my template just to mark out roughly where the next row is going to go, and then I'll come back and stitch that out. So I've marked out roughly where I want my second row of sand dunes to go, and I'm just going to stitch down to create a kind of a scalloped effect using the same ruler as the first row. So here we go. That's our sand dune section nearly finished. Okay, so now we're going to do the sea, and I'm going to do that using the squiggle template here, and I'm going to use the larger side. So this is really good for waves, so you can have large or small waves, or you can create a ribbon effect using this template, and that's what I'm going to do for my sea. This template has really handy markings, and I'm going to use those quite a lot to line everything up, so I get a nice even ribbon effect as I stitch down. So I've marked where my rows of ribbon stitching are going to go, and I've also marked a start point here. So I've placed my the cross hatch on the ruler where I want it to start, and now I can just lower my needle. I'm just going to move it away because I'm just going to bring my threads to the top. And I can pop it back. So I'm just going to lower that down, pop that back. And I want to make sure that this bump here is also on the line, so I'm just going to make sure I line that up. Make sure I'm all organised. Okay, and then I'm ready to start stitching down. Now I'm going to do one section at a time, and then I'm going to move my hands. So I'm just going to go to the next marking, and then I can just move my hands down, make sure I'm nice and straight, apply the right amount of pressure and carry on. And now I've got to this point, I need to move my ruler down. And again, I can line it up using the really handy markers that are inside and outside of the foot. And then once I'm happy, got my hands in the right spot, then I can carry on. Now to do the opposite side, what I have to do is I actually have to flip my ruler over. Now because I'm going to flip it over, I don't have any grip tape on this side, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some masking tape and make some loops and stick it on so I've got added grip. And you could put tape on both sides if you wanted to. I don't see it would do any harm, but for now I'm just going to pop some tape to help me while I'm guiding it on this side. There we go. And I need to line up, so I flip it over, and now I need to line up so I'm going to place my marker on the line. So I'm using this marker to line up with my top line, and this marker here again is going to align with my centre line. I'm just checking that that's all nice and even. And then I can lower my foot, pop my needle in just to anchor my work. I'm just going to put my gloves back on because these are just so useful. And then off we go with the other side of the ribbon. So there's my nice ribbon design. I'm just going to repeat that on the next 3 rows. Now I'm going to do some circles around my lovely sun. Now I've created the sun by appliquing some yellow fabric on using the circular sewing attachment. So that's really great for sewing circles. And I've done the sun exactly the same size as the small template, the small ruler of the circle set. So that should just fit neatly over. Now because I've already done the middle circle, I've stuck the two circles together just to give me more grip, and I'm going to sew around the outer circle. Then I'm going to do another layer with the largest circle, and then I'm going to extend it using the echo quilts. But first of all, I'm just going to do using two. So it's quite important to get all these lined up. I've drawn a cross going through my sun, so I know exactly where the centre is, and I'm going to line it up using the etched markings on the foot. So I'm just going to line that up, make sure that's nice and neat and in the middle. Because we want these to be concentric circles around the centre one. Then when I'm happy with that, I'm just going to mark, just give myself a little guide where that is on my fabric, so I just find that helps when positioning. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch a quarter, then I'm going to move my hands another quarter, then I'm going to stop here and I'm going to rotate the whole circular ruler, because it's got this little cutout here, and obviously I can't sew around that, I need to pivot that round. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Let's get going. And because it's got these lovely markings inside, I'm going to line those up just to help me get started. Bring my threads to the top so we don't get any bunching underneath. And just get my hands in the correct position, and away we go. So as I say, I'm just going to do a quarter at a time, and then I'm going to move my hands, because I find that works best. And then I can so now we're going to add another ring and do the outer ring. So I've added my outer ring and stuck them all together, and I'm just going to complete the last of the circle before we move on to the echo quilting clips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the echo quilting clips. I'm going to pop this onto my foot, and then I can extend the range of these circular templates. I'm going to use the smallest of the echo quilting clips to do one more circle around my sun. Now the echo quilting clips, when you put them on, you need to make sure that the etched markings, and you can feel those, are facing down, and then the foot just pops in really snugly. So I'm going to line up the line on the etched line with the lines on my foot, so it's all square, and then they just pop into place, just sink in, and that's it attached. So now I'm going to put my foot on, and it just fits on like a normal foot, except you've now got the clip there. And I'm just going to get my template back into position. Using the markers guidelines that I put in earlier. And then we just do exactly the same as we did before, but because we've got this echo quilt clip attached, it creates a larger circle. So just make sure that's all in the right spot. tweak these a little bit. So now I'm going to make sure they line up with the markings on the other template. And again, we're just going to do needle down, needle up. Bring those to the top. And it's really easy to use. I mean, it's just as easy to use as the foot, really. And again, I'm going to twist around to get rid of that little gap. So that's all met up nicely, and then I can just trim. And that's just extended the range of the templates, you know, of the rulers that I've already got, and I could carry on and use the other ones if I wanted to have a few more circles going out, but I think that's fine for now. So the next stage we're going to move on to is we're going to look at using the inserts, which you can use for couching down threads. For the final part of my design, I am going to put some fun bunting, just drape it along this corner, and to do that I'm going to couch down this lovely red wool. And I'm going to use the couching inserts which fit into the bottom of foot 72. Now these are great because they come in 3 different sizes, so you can use very thin, medium or quite thick wool or cord with this foot, so it's quite versatile. For this wool I'm just going to use the small insert, the smallest one, because I think that's going to work best. So to attach it to the foot, it just pushes into place, really easy, so it just snaps into place and that's it attached. And then I'm going to get my wool and just pass it through the hole. It's easier to do when the foot's not attached, so just pop that through like that. So we just pull that through, and then I'm going to attach it to put the foot back onto the machine. Ooh, there we go, so that's that one, and the wool is now passing through the bottom of the foot. Now when I lower my foot, I just want to check that the height is you know, I can still move my fabric around. Because the insert is quite thick, sometimes you might have to adjust it, and you can either adjust it with the foot pressure or with the dial, but that looks good, I think that's fine. Now I'm going to couch my bunting on this corner here, so I just need to get in a good position. So I'm just going to turn this over. And another good tip is you don't want any tension on your wool, so it's a good idea to really unravel as much as you think you're going to need, and that can all just rest on the table at the back there. Now I'm going to start off, big tail, I'm going to start off at the top here, so I can bring my foot down, and it's quite important that you get all your threads underneath the foot, otherwise you'll end up with more bunching up. I need to pull everything through. There we go. And then it's just a case of stitching down and couching down your bunting shape. So I'm just going to hold my ends, and away we go. And if you do a few extra stitches in the corner, that works better. Then you get a nice secure edge. I think these inserts are just so versatile because you can use such different thicknesses in wool. I think that's brilliant. And then come out at the corner, and then to move on. So there's my bunting stitched down. I think that's really fun and adds a really nice element to my panel. So that's everything sewn down. That's all my ruler work done and all my couching done. Now all that's left is to have a little tidy up and to do my binding around the edge, and then that's the project complete. So here's our finished summer beach hut panel. I'm really pleased with it. I've added some binding round the edge just to finish it off, and I've also added just a little button for my door handle, and of course I sewed that on using the button sewing on program on my Bernina 570. So I think this is a really nice project for someone who's starting out using the rulers. I like the way we've got the different areas that you can fill in with each different type of ruler. And the rulers are so versatile, there's so many different shapes you can create with them. They're really fun to use. So I just want to say thank you for watching the webinar, and if you are interested in the rulers, the ruler kits or the ruler foot, then there's loads more information available on the Benina website, or you can contact your local Benina dealer and they'll be able to get those in for you and give you a demonstration on them. So thanks again, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.